Hi, welcome to this hypnotherapy session. In about 30 seconds, I'm going to disappear from the screen and the screen is going to go black to allow you to settle into it. So please sit down or lay down comfortably. Make sure your headphones are in if you've got them. Turn off any notifications on your phone. Hopefully, you've watched the short video introduction explaining what hypnotherapy is or isn't, but if you haven't, that doesn't really matter. So this screen's going to go black now, and I'd like you to settle down and enjoy the session. Thank you.
You don't need to feel relaxed yet. Nothing needs to change quickly. Just noticing yourself here, exactly as you are, is enough for now. Now some minds start busy, some already feel quieter, and many move between the two, wandering a little, and perhaps wondering without trying how ease begins. So there's no right way to do this, just only your way. And you might notice the simple fact you're here listening, not needing to go anywhere else right now. Thoughts can drift or stay close or move in and out like breath. And you don't have to mind that. You may simply notice the mind doing what it does in its own time. And at some point awareness may rest in the body, not as effort, just as presence. Parts of the body you're aware of, and parts that remain quiet in the background. As if your attention can gently feel and fill whichever space it lands on. And perhaps without planning to, you become aware of the breath. It's been there all along, arriving, leaving, doing its work piece by piece. And as your body finds a little more peace in the noticing. Most people don't notice breathing until it matters. And this might be that moment for you. Nothing forced, just the breath aware of itself again. And as you notice it, you might sense the system already knows how to settle. A slightly softer exhale, a little more room in the ribs. Or just the simple recognition that breathing happens without your help. There's no need to take a deep breath. The body will just know. And if nothing changes yet, well, that's just the work beginning. So awareness first and shift later. You might begin to feel a small softening somewhere, or the hint of heaviness, or the sense of being placed here in this moment. As thoughts begin to wander, and wonder where they go when they soften. And of course you don't have to guide it, and you don't have to follow it. Just be here. Let the mind decide how it listens, and the body decides how it rests. Because sometimes we understand something consciously, and sometimes we hear, and hear in a different way, one that doesn't need thinking to make sense. And as all that settles in its own way, when you're ready, or before even you realise you're ready, we can just begin to move just a little deeper. And now, as you continue to breathe slowly and evenly, awareness begins to drift inward. Each breath a quiet signal to the body. You can soften now. You can rest. Notice the gentle weight where your body meets the surface beneath you. Notice the air on your skin. The subtle movement of breath at the edges of your nostrils. The stillness forming around each sound. And with every breath, the body settles more deeply than before. The rhythm of breathing becomes the rhythm of calm. I'd like you now to maybe imagine yourself standing at the top of a long, smooth staircase. And it's softly lit and it's gently inviting. And it's safe. And I want you to, with each number I count, when I count them, you can take one easy step downwards. And with every step downwards, deeper down, your comfort will double. So on the 10th step, and the muscles behind the eyes relaxing. And stepping down to the 9th, you feel the shoulders release. Down through 8, and a warmth spreads through your chest and arms. Down to 7, and just breathing deeper now. To 6, and drifting further downwards. And on the 5th step, halfway down now, safe and steady. Down to 4, legs loose and heavy. And as you reach the 3rd step, the thoughts start drifting further apart. And 2 almost at the bottom now. And 1 stepping off, arriving in a space of complete stillness. And as you reach this special place, you simply pause and breathe. Each exhale draws you 1 layer deeper into comfort. You might even notice tiny details now. A faint pulse in the fingertip. A gentle rhythm of the heart. Each beat syncing with the breath. And that's okay, this is just your body learning the pattern of peace. And here awareness expands and contracts, like the slow movement of a tide. And as you inhale, a faint sense of lifting, as though light moves gently through the body. And as you exhale, a quiet descent, sinking a little deeper, a little further into calm. Each rise opens the door for a deeper fall. Each fall teaches the system that letting go is safe. Time begins to stretch now. Moments widen. The conscious mind loses its grip. You start to sense the quiet below thought. Even if you can hear background sounds, a car outside, a creak in the room, they just blend into depth. They become part of the rhythm that carries you deeper. And if you were to measure time, you'd find it shifting. Seconds expanding. Minutes dissolving into stillness. And that's good, because this is just the subconscious taking charge. And in that quiet stillness, your deeper mind can begin to show just how responsive it already is. You might like now, I don't know, simply to choose one of your hands, whichever hand feels right to you. There's no need to analyze or decide. Just notice which one your attention drifts to. And as that hand becomes the focus, bring awareness to one single finger, perhaps the first that draws your attention, perhaps another. So your mind will know which one it wishes to use. So just notice that finger now, its weight, its warmth, and of course the tiny pulse of life within it. And as you notice, you may begin to sense a faint impulse there, a soft current, a micro movement. You don't need to make it happen. In fact, you might have even tried to keep it completely still and just notice what happens anyway. Because when the subconscious mind is ready to respond, it often chooses the smallest possible signal, a twitch, a flutter, a movement so light it's almost imagined. And whether that movement happens now or a little later, the awareness of it tells you something deeper. That your mind and your body are listening to each other. And as soon as you become aware of that subtle response, or even the feeling that it could happen, you can just allow the whole hand to rest again. And as it settles, you drift twice as deep. Relaxation spreading outwards like the gentle ripples of calm. And every muscle now learning what ease feels like. Every cell remembering balance. And now as all systems begin to synchronize, breath, pulse, thought, each moving to the same slow rhythm, the deeper the mind is open. The surface mind pleasantly distant, as if two parts of you were working together perfectly. One resting, one listening, both in harmony. And it may feel as though you could stay here for 5 minutes or 5 hours. And the difference would mean nothing, because time inside calm has its own pace. What feels like a moment can be long enough for the subconscious to reset and to restore and to heal. So there's nothing to manage, nothing to prove, only the rhythm of breath, the steadiness of the heartbeat, and the feeling of drifting effortlessly in peace. And the deeper you drift, the quieter everything becomes, and the more ready you are for the work that follows, anchored, open, and completely at ease. And for others, stillness becomes deeper, solid, steady, a place to rest. Either way, that's your system responding. No pushing, no performing, just noticing what's there and their own way of responding. So let awareness settle now, where effort falls away and the body will know what to do without instruction. You aren't falling asleep, but if later something in you choose to do this, that's fine. The mind can rest and still know, without needing to know how it does this. Comfort doing the work, you simply being the space it happens in, and in its own good time. And as you continue to settle, there is really nothing that you need to consciously work out right now. Because sometimes change doesn't begin by just fighting against something. Sometimes it begins simply by becoming clearer, just clearer about what you want instead. And perhaps there have been times when one thing has simply led to another. Going out, having a drink, maybe the atmosphere changing, someone suggesting something. And before you've really stopped to think about it, you've just found yourself following a familiar path. And you know, cocaine has sometimes been part of that path. And not necessarily because you planned it. Not because you woke up that morning wanting it. But because in that particular moment, now became more important than tomorrow. And yet tomorrow always arrives. And perhaps that's something your mind can begin thinking about differently now. Because life can sometimes be a little like travelling along a road. And if we think about that road, most of the time, you don't consciously think about every turn you take. You just drive. And some roads become familiar simply because you've travelled them many times before. Maybe a few drinks, maybe somebody mentions cocaine, maybe another drink, different decisions, perhaps attention from women, And you know, one turn simply leads to another. And there is something interesting about a familiar road. You don't have to hate it. You don't have to fight against it or pretend it isn't there. To decide you don't want to travel down it anymore. You simply stop turning down it. And why? Well, because once you know where a road leads, you don't have to travel all the way to the end every time just to prove it. And just maybe, perhaps your mind might begin recognizing the junction earlier. Because the real decision may not happen when cocaine is actually in front of you. The junction may have appeared much earlier. Perhaps just with that extra drink. Perhaps with certain people. Perhaps with a particular situation. Or perhaps simply with the thought, why not? And something that once happened almost automatically can begin becoming much easier to notice. A moment, a pause, a recognition. The recognition of, I've been down there before. I know where that road goes. And then you have a choice. And that choice is not because somebody else is telling you what to do. Not because you are being controlled. But because simply you are deciding where you want to go. And by the way, at your age, there is an enormous amount of road still ahead of you. Important events, opportunities, relationships, people who matter, your reputation, your future, and the kind of man you want to become. And perhaps you don't need to be somebody completely different. Perhaps you simply need to become more consistently the person you already know you can be. The version of you who knows how to think clearly, who can enjoy himself without losing himself, who doesn't need what he thinks cocaine can provide, which never does. The version of you who can walk into a room feeling comfortable with who he is and walk out afterwards with his self-respect completely intact. Because you know something, real confidence isn't just doing everything you feel like doing. Sometimes real confidence is knowing, I could, but I chose not to. Perhaps you can imagine that now. Some evening in the future, you're out, you're with people are drinking, talking, I don't know, laughing, and you're enjoying yourself. You're having a good time. And somewhere along the way, the old junction appears. Maybe somebody suggests something. Maybe there's an opportunity. Maybe you simply recognize that familiar feeling. But the difference is this time you notice it. You can almost see the sign. I know where that goes. And perhaps something inside you simply says, not tonight. I've got too much going for me. And then you can carry on enjoying yourself. Because saying no doesn't have to ruin the evening. It doesn't have to become some enormous battle. It's simply a turn you choose not to take. And perhaps there is something surprisingly powerful about that. Because every time you make that choice, of course, you're not really giving something up. This is not about giving something up. It's about your gaining of tomorrow morning, your gaining of clarity, your gaining of control, your gaining the knowledge, of course, that you can trust yourself. And just perhaps that begins to influence other choices too. Because alcohol and cocaine may have sometimes changed your judgment, lowered the barriers, made choices seem attractive in the moment. And maybe those choices looked rather different the following day. But of course, you don't need every opportunity that presents itself. You can notice a tension without needing to act upon it. You can enjoy being wanted without needing to prove anything. You can enjoy the moment and still remember the person you want to be tomorrow. And as you lie there now, perhaps your mind can begin rehearsing that automatically. Seeing yourself at those important events ahead. Clear-headed, present, confident, looking well, speaking well, being completely yourself. And afterwards being able to think, I did that. I protected what mattered. Because of course change doesn't require perfection, it just requires direction. And every time you interrupt the old pattern, that pattern becomes a little less automatic. And every time you choose a different turn, that road becomes a little more familiar. Until perhaps something that once required conscious effort simply begins to feel like you. And you know, there will always be other people making their own choices. There will always be different roads available. But their choices don't have to become yours. You get to choose your direction. And perhaps somewhere in the future, there is an older version of you looking back at this period of your life, recognizing that something important happened here. Not some enormous, dramatic transformation, simply a point when you began understanding. And the understanding is that your future was worth more than a temporary feeling. And you started choosing accordingly. Calmly, confidently, without drama. I know what I want. I know where I'm going. I'm not going to get in my own way anymore. And perhaps the interesting thing about any journey is that you don't need to see the entire road ahead. You only need to choose the next turn, and then the next. Until one day you look back, and at that point you realise just how far you have travelled. And perhaps, in some small way, that journey's already begun. And now, as this time of calm and focus begins to draw to a close, you can allow all the useful changes from this session to continue settling quietly in the background of your mind. There's no need to think about them. They're already integrating naturally and becoming part of the way you think, feel, and respond. So the body begins to re-energize now, the mind clearing, the breath deepening, and you may start to notice small movements returning, a shift of the shoulders, maybe a swallow, or maybe the fingers or toes beginning to move. And as you reconnect with the room around you, you bring this calm awareness with you, clear, balanced, steady. And in a moment I'm going to count from 1 to 5, and with each number your energy will rise, your sharpness focus, and you return to full alertness, calm, refreshed and clear-headed. So 1, taking a deeper breath. 2, feeling energy return through the body. That's it. 3, becoming aware of your surroundings. 4, your eyes beginning to blink. Mind bright, body refreshed. And 5, eyes open now, fully awake, calm, clear, and ready to move forward.